Welcome to a new episode of Books and Beyond from the Winter Park Library, recorded live in the recording studio at the library in beautiful Winter Park, Florida. In Books and Beyond, we have conversations with writers, musicians, artists, presenters, and other contributors. Most of our guests have appeared live at the Winter Park Library or will be presenting soon. We hope you'll subscribe to the Books and Beyond podcast and that you'll stay up to date with library goings-on at winterparklibrary.org/events. That's winterparklibrary.org/events. I'm Michael Werner, and I'll be your host for our interviews. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Michael Werner here, and welcome to an episode of Books and Beyond podcast. We're here at the Winter Park Library, and our guest today is Cati Koch. Cati is from the Writer's Block Bookstore in Winter Park, but I'm going to let Cati introduce herself. Cati, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you.
Very, very, very grateful. I love the Winter Park Library, so I was so excited when we had this opportunity. So, yes, as Michael said, my name is Cati Koch. I'm with Writer's Block Bookstore. We have a location in Winter Park in Winter Garden. I'm the events manager, so I oversee pretty much all of our events that we have going on at the bookstore. We've got author salons that we do here at the Winter Park Library. We do some book festivals, which we'll get into a little bit later. We work with schools. It's a very rewarding job. I'm honestly very honored to be a part of the community.
Well, again, welcome. And I thought I should mention to everybody, the recording studio that we're in right now at the library is actually sponsored by the Writer's Block Bookstore.
Yeah.
It's the Writer's Block recording studio. So if you happen to be around the library, you'll see that plaque outside of the recording studio.
Yeah.
So, Cati, let me ask you. I want to talk to you about two things today.
Okay.
One about your bookstore itself, and then how you all got involved with the library and what the connection is.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
tell us a little bit about your bookstore and a little story about yourself and the bookstore.
Yeah. So the Writer's Block Bookstore, actually, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year, which is super fantastic to be able to say that. Being an independent bookstore is tough alone, so hitting our 10-year mark has been truly magical. It was started 10 years ago by Lauren Zimmerman. She had an idea that Orlando needed an independent bookstore, and she brought that idea to fruition, which is, again, so magical. We had our store in Winter Park on Welburn Avenue, which is right off Park Avenue. We had it there for a few years, and then we moved on to Park Avenue officially about 4 years ago, and we opened our second location in Winter Garden. We're very, very, very blessed. Lauren has fantastic connections all over the greater Orlando area. Her and her husband Scott have been living here for almost 40 years, so we are very lucky that we get to work with people like the Winter Park Library and the Downtown Orlando Library. We get to work with other smaller venues that are local here in Orlando when we have these events. So it's a very wonderful experience to be so involved in the Orlando community. I myself have been with the bookstore for 2 years. In March, so technically I'm almost at my 2-year mark. I have been friends with Lauren and Scott my whole life. Our parents have known each other for almost 40 years. So post-COVID, I was kind of trying to figure my life out, didn't have a job. I was furloughed and what have you. And Lauren reached out and said, hey, we want to bring our events department back to life. It was so lively before COVID, and we had all these amazing authors and all these amazing events. And obviously, we took a little bit of a toll when the pandemic happened, and she asked if I would help, and here we are. Yeah. 2 years later, and we have a very, very, very thriving events department. We're so honored.
Yeah, how many events do you do in a month, a year, whatever?
Yeah, it depends. We've got our big months and we've got our little months. Right now, February, we're in a big month, so we've got just shy of about 30 events.
In 1 month?
In 1 month, yeah.
Holy
crazy, because we don't even have 30 days in February, so it's crazy to think about. But yes, we are so blessed. We have an entire staff at the bookstore. We have 28 people total, and every single person is trained to work an event. So I am very blessed because the entire book staff team can help me out if I need an extra set of hands, or if we have 2 events going on at the same time. Everyone is fully equipped and trained to handle events both big and small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think the bookstore is expanding, isn't it?
Yes, we are expanding. We should be opening up our second floor, quote unquote, officially in the next couple weeks. We underwent some construction starting back in November, and we moved our children's department to the second floor. So we are adding about 1,200 square feet of space strictly for children. So we'll start our story times. We'll have authors come in and read to the kids and meet the kids. We'll do crafts and all kinds of goodies. Our children's lead bookseller is truly amazing at what she does. She has been working in kids' books for years and years, along with our general manager. So they are experts, and we are very excited to get the children programming.
That is very exciting.
Yeah, it's really, really, really wonderful.
Cool. So now tell us about your relationship beyond sponsoring this recording studio, what your relationship is with the library and how you get involved with the library and what you do with and for the library.
Yeah, so Lauren is very involved with the library herself. Her and her husband have been involved for longer than I probably know, to be honest. But we work with the library. We do author salons. So both the library and Writer's Block work on bringing authors from all over the world to Florida, Orlando specifically, and the library has a beautiful auditorium that we are able to use when we work together on these events and bring these authors here to Orlando. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it provides such a beautiful space for the author to come and do a talk, whether it be by themselves about the book, or we bring in a moderator or potentially another author that they can be in conversation with. And they talk about their books, their experience in writing, why they love writing, how they got into writing. We do some audience Q&A after, and then at the end of the event, all the guests get to meet the author, get their book signed, personalized if they want to give it as a gift. It's like getting to meet your idols. You know, I call authors undercover celebrities, because realistically, you know the name, but you don't know the face. So walking down the street, you necessarily probably wouldn't recognize them, but when you put them in this setting, they're like this huge idol that you've been reading their books for all these years, and you're just obsessed with them.
And there they are in person.
There they are, and then you get to meet them and take a picture and then chat with them. It's just so wonderful. The authors are absolutely amazing. They're all so kind and gracious, and they give their time to be here, and they spend so much time with each guest. It's so wonderful to see. It really is.
How do you find them, the authors? In general?
Very good question. So we work with all the major publishers. We have really fantastic relationships with a lot of the publishing houses, with our reps and with publishers that work for them. We either get authors sent in just through our connections alone. Maybe we've worked with the publicist in the past and they had a fantastic experience here in Orlando with us, with the library, and they want to send more of their authors here. Sometimes the authors want to go to Orlando for personal reasons, and then they reach out and say, hey, while they're there, can we schedule an event for their book that just came out?
Maybe that's why we have 30 people in February. Right?
Yeah, that's probably why we have 30 people in February. They all want to escape the cold and come to Florida because it's actually beautiful weather.
Yeah.
And then we work through what are called event grids. It's a platform that I spend a lot of time on. And we read through all the different authors that are going on tour throughout the entire world and see which authors we think would be a good fit. Who do we think our readers would want to meet? Maybe we're selling a lot of a certain book or a certain genre, and we can accommodate to what we think our guests would really enjoy.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of the reasons you're here today, in addition to helping us understand more about the bookstore, is to find out about an event that is coming up in March.
Yes.
Called Romancing the Book.
Yes.
It's about romance books, and I know nothing about romance books. Never read one. All I know are the typical covers that maybe don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know, with the shirtless guy
Yes.
running down the beach and the woman at his feet.
Yes.
You know,
those covers are interesting to say the least.
Yeah. So there's an event here at the library, and I believe what date is it?
It's March 23rd. It's a Saturday.
Okay.
So it's coming up in a little over a month from now. I think we're at about the 6-week mark.
Okay.
It's from 11 to 3 p.m.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a half-day affair.
Okay.
And we have 8 semi-local Florida and Georgia authors coming to Orlando.
Okay.
To meet with people, to sign books. They'll be in a panel discussion talking about their books, they kind of range from different subgenres of romance. So we have some that write more fantasy romance, some that write, friends to lovers romance. So we tried to sprinkle in a little bit of everything to satisfy every romance reader, because there's a lot of subgenres in the romance department.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, the evolution of the romance novel over the last few years.
It has grown and taken the world over by storm. So romance has always been a thriving genre, to say the least, but ever since COVID and the pandemic and social media has kind of taken the world by storm, it's given romance a whole world to thrive in. So our bookstore, we would always sell romance books. That was not a problem, but now it's become one of our best sellers. We have romance book clubs that meet at both of our bookstores that have anywhere from 25 to 40 people that come once a month to talk romance books, to talk about the book that we picked that month, to talk about what we're currently reading, what's on our to be read. It is a whole community. They're so supportive. Romance authors are so supportive of each other. The bookstore industry, or the book world as a whole, is very, very, very supportive. It is a very close-knit, tight community, and I think it's growing very rapidly, but it's still holding on to that very family-oriented feel, which is awesome. Yeah.
Now, at the event here at the library on March 23rd, and by the way, everybody, if you want to know about more events at the library, you can go to winterparklibrary.org/events, and you'll see a list of all the events they have, and they have a lot of events
They
too.
do.
It was as surprising a world to me as the whole romance world is a new thing for me.
It is.
They just have tons of wonderful events for people of all ages, kids, adults.
Their kids is
tweeners.
fantastic.
The kids programs are fantastic. So please do check that out at winterparklibrary.org/events. So at the event itself, you said there's 8 authors, and you haven't finalized it yet. You'll have a keynote speaker.
Yes.
So how does it work actually? So it's 11 to 3. What happens?
Yeah. So we'll open the doors at 11. People will come in. It's a free event, so we will have the ability to pre-sign up, just as a friendly reminder to send you event information. That's what I always say, and it gives us an idea of how many people to come. That way, we have enough books available for people to shop around. But it's a free event, so you can come on in. If you are familiar with the authors and you already have some of their books, you're welcome to bring them. If you want to meet them and have them sign your books, your personal collection at home, you're welcome to do that. But we'll go ahead and get started. Writer's Block will have a little mini bookstore set up at the event selling all of the authors' books. So as I mentioned, we have the 8 panel romance authors, and then we'll have the 1 keynote. So we'll have everyone's books available at the event. The authors will be here. They will be doing a panel discussion discussing, as I mentioned, everything from how they got started into writing, maybe what their next book is going to be about, maybe some teasers, anything along those lines. And then we'll break out. We'll have some snacks, some light refreshments available. The authors will each be at their own table, meeting with all of the attendees, taking pictures, signing books, chatting. If maybe you're a potential author and you want to write a book but you don't know how to get started, this is the best opportunity to come, because you're going to have 9 fantastic authors here that can give you advice on how to get started, which I commend you, because I know it's a difficult task. Or if you want to come with some friends and just have a day out and get some books and meet some authors and then go grab some lunch. And then we will end the day with the keynote speaker. She will come on stage. She will talk about her new book, give a little bit of information about herself, how she got into writing, and then she will be available at the end for a meet and greet as well.
Okay. And is there a moderator at the event, or how does it work?
So Lorelei, who we're partnering with from Lorelei's Lit Layer, she is going to be there moderating and doing her thing. She is a romance expert. She's been doing it for honestly longer than I can imagine, and she has fantastic connections in the community. She has an entire online community of romance lovers. She brings authors in to meet them virtually. She brings authors in for events. We work with her on almost all of our romance events because she is so intertwined in the community. So she'll be heading up a lot of the moderation in conversation aspect of the festival.
Okay. Cati, I have to ask you, if I'm listening to this podcast,
Yeah.
and I'm an author wannabe
Yeah.
or an author,
Mhm.
but I haven't done any shows, presentation, anything like that.
Yeah.
How do I get involved with doing that? Would I contact your bookstore, or
Yeah,
what would I do?
absolutely. You can contact me at Writer's Block.
Okay.
We have a couple ways about doing that. You can always give us a call.
Okay.
It's very easy. I love to talk on the phone. You're welcome to give us a call, and I can kind of walk you through the process. There are a few small details that we'd have to go over just to make sure that we're able to order the book, because sometimes books are a little bit more difficult to get.
Mhm.
But with that being said, we can figure it out. We also have on our website, writersblockbookstore.com is our website. We have on the About Us section in the menu bar a little form called author inquiry form,
Okay.
which authors can fill out if they want us to sell their books in the store, or if they're interested in doing an event. They can fill that form out, and those forms come directly to me, and I sit down with our management staff. We sit down every Monday. We go through all of the inquiries. Might I add, we get about a dozen a day, so please be patient
Whoa.
with us because
Okay.
they come in very hot, and it is always me playing a game of catch up, to be honest. So we try to go through them every week. We pull out the ones we think would be a good fit for the store, whether it be selling the book in the store if we can get it, or hosting an event at the store. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time because we do some finagling, and we do events similar to this where we'll have multiple authors and have a panel event. And we do, whether it's local authors or semi-local authors, the Florida, Georgia-ish area.
Mhm.
And we'll bring in those authors for book festivals, just trying to support the community the way the community has been supporting us for 10 years.
Wow, you live in a really fascinating world, and I
Yeah.
really admire you. I mean, it's a little tough job that you have.
Yeah, it keeps me on my toes.
keeping all those balls up in the air at the same time.
It's hard. It's hard because everyone, writing is such a vulnerable thing to do. And I'll never forget, it was one of my first events at the bookstore, and I was sitting next to the author, and she was signing books. And someone came up to her and said, "I'm an aspiring writer, but I'm kind of stuck, and I don't know if what I'm writing is going to be reciprocated and loved by the community, or if I'm doing the right thing. Do you have any advice?" And the writer grabbed their hands and looked them dead in the soul and said, "If what you're writing doesn't scare you, then you're not writing the right thing. You should feel scared and vulnerable when you write what you write, because you're writing, your soul and your heart and everything." And it was such a beautiful piece of advice, and it's stuck with me for the years to come. And I always tell it when people come to the bookstore, and
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm an aspiring writer, and, I don't know. And I'm like, well, one time I heard this, and it stuck with me. So
Yeah, I think most of us are many people. They've got a book somewhere in their heads.
Yes,
in
we
their,
all do.
In their top drawer. And are you working on one?
Oh,
Katie?
no. I love to talk, but writing is not my forte.
Well, maybe you should write a book on how to talk.
Yeah,
How
maybe
to-
that's,
yeah.
maybe I'd lean towards like a cookbook. I love to cook. So that's
Okay.
probably less words, more photos.
Okay.
That's
very-
more
very
my
good.
speed. Yeah.
Okay. So before we depart today,
Yes.
Katie, I want to remind everybody it's March 23rd.
Yes.
Romancing the Book.
Yes.
Here at the Winter Park Library in beautiful downtown Winter Park, just
Yes.
off of downtown.
There's free parking.
Free parking.
Easy to get to.
Nice people. Snacks.
Yes,
You said
snacks and
snacks.
refreshments,
That
yes.
brings us in.
Hello. That's
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
And you can come and go as you please. If you can't get here at 11, come at 12, come at 1, come at 2.
Okay.
We're just ending at 3. So if you come before 3, you can join in on the fun.
Yeah. It'll be fun. I think I'm going to stop by myself and
Yeah.
see what this is all about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So again, Katie Koch from the Writer's Block Bookstore
Yes.
in downtown Winter Park, and they
Yes.
also have a branch in
Winter Garden. Yeah.
And great to have you join us today.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for telling
much
us all
for
this
having
stuff.
me.
I learned a lot about
Yeah.
romance books.
I know.
They're not all the naked guy on the front of the
No,
cover.
Some
with,
of them still are,
Some of them
which
still are?
honestly, I do love those books. So don't ever be shy from those books. They're usually very, very, very good.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for coming in.
Thank
again,
you.
This is Michael Werner with the Books and Beyond podcast, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Michael. Yay.
Yay. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Books and Beyond from the Winter Park Library. This podcast would not be possible without the generous help and support from the library staff, and especially from Jeremy Zorn. Jeremy's official title is Public Services Librarian, but he does many things here at the library, including producing this podcast. We can't do this without you, Jeremy. Our theme music is from the song Don't Go by Bovine Joe and the Buffalo Herd. That's Herd spelled H-E-A-R-D. We hope you'll let your friends and others know about this podcast and that you'll come by the library for one of our offerings, which you can find at winterparklibrary.org/events. That's winterparklibrary.org/events. If you have questions or suggestions for the podcast or just want to talk about Books and Beyond, please send an email to podcast@winterparklibrary.org. That's an email to podcast@winterparklibrary.org. Remember that the Winter Park Library promotes the free and open exchange of ideas and does not attempt to control or take responsibility for any opinions that may be expressed in this podcast. Opinions expressed in this podcast do not constitute or imply an endorsement or a reflection of the library's policies or beliefs. This is Michael Werner, wishing you well until our next episode of Books and Beyond.